Yesterday, I posted a video and an article over on shanecraig.tech where I went over the latest rumors around the Pixel 10, specifically the cameras on these devices, and specifically the Pixel 10 base model. It's quite interesting because it seems as though the primary and the ultra-wide cameras are being downgraded to some degree. These new sensors are smaller than the old sensors seen in the Pixel 9. Now, the trade-off here is that they are adding a telephoto camera. The main point of my video was that it's concerning to me and it's not a good look for Google. Even if at the end of the day the photos end up looking very similar to what they did on the Pixel 9, and now you have a decent enough telephoto camera, when you have a base model and a pro model, and year over a year, instead of upgrading the pro model, you downgrade the base model to further differentiate between the two. That's just not a good look. But here's the thing. Not everyone is going to care about these things, right? Some people are just going to care about how do the photos look at the end of the day. Some people aren't as plugged in and as nerdy as people like myself and some of you watching this video. Nerdy is not a derogatory term, by the way. So in this video, we're going to talk to somebody like that because I happen to know someone who has been daily driving the base model Pixel 9, and I'm going to throw these things at them and see how they feel about these potential changes. And of course, the person in question is none other than my wife, Jessie.
Hello.
So you have been using the Pixel 9 base model for, it's been like several months now, right? Like almost since it came out.
Mm-hmm.
What has your, we should start here first. What has your overall experience with the Pixel 9 camera been? So you did use the Pixel 8 Pro before that. Google had sent us the mint green Pixel 8 Pro when I was still a member of Team Pixel, RIP. And so you went from the 8 Pro to the 9 base model. You wanted a smaller phone, and you really liked that pink color, the appearance of it. So, exactly. Excuse me. What has your experience with that camera been, going from the Pro with, the 3 cameras, including that telephoto, to the base model 9, which only has the primary and the ultra wide?
So, okay, I'm pretty much okay with it, just taking simple shots, but anytime that I have to zoom in, I've been kind of disappointed, because I went from, the better phone to this one, and it is just, as soon as you try to zoom in, it's just blurry. So I've been a little bit like, oh, like that's a pretty big difference. But if I don't do that, then I'm fine. Can still take pretty cool photos. Not I don't really do anything with my photos. So they're just like for me and you and like my friends and everything. But it's still a Pixel camera, which is good.
Gotcha. And that makes a lot of sense. So going from the 8 Pro to the 9, just so that we're kind of going to have all the information here, the primary camera is the same. 8 Pro to 9 base model. It's if I'm not mistaken, it's the same primary sensor. Ultra wide, same thing. It's the same exact sensor. So you would experience the same thing going from one to the other. When you need to zoom in, though, you don't have a dedicated zoom camera. So what you're doing is you're taking that primary and you're just cropping in. And I think that the first time that it really, like, you really started noticing that you were like, man, I really just can't zoom. But 2x is fine. 3x is a little shaky. Anything beyond that, it does not look great. We were at an AEW wrestling event here in Knoxville.
Yeah.
And I had probably the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, and it has a 5X, which actually is a great analog for this conversation, which I'll explain here in just a little bit. It's got a 5X telephoto, and I was able to zoom way in and get, pretty decent looking shots, which we weren't even that far from the ring, if we're being honest.
We were so close.
We had pretty good seats. So and you're like, trying to take pictures, and you're just like disappointed, like, man, like, why don't my pictures look terrible? It's like, you don't have that zoom lens anymore.
Yeah.
So if I told you that the base model Pixel 10 was going to be gaining a zoom lens, a zoom sensor, that's something that you would probably be interested in, right?
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
So one thing that we have to consider with this if you're Google, is if you add that zoom lens to the base model, now you have a base model that has a wide, an ultra wide, and a telephoto, and then you have a pro model, which is also going to have a wide, ultra wide, and a telephoto. They're going to have the same processor. I think that the RAM is the same. Let me actually look at that real quick. Does the Pixel 9 have the same amount of RAM as the? I think it does. I think it's 12 gigs of RAM regardless, but I'm going to make sure. Basically, you would have two phones that, okay, 12 for the base, 16 for the Pro. So you would basically be like, okay, so maybe the screen's a little bit brighter, you get a little bit more RAM, but cameras are the same. Like, how would you justify getting someone to buy the Pro model when the base model is so much cheaper? Well, what Google's done here is they have not just added the same zoom as what the Pro models have. It is instead the zoom sensor from the Pixel 9 Pro Fold.
Which is really good.
Well, they're both 5x, but the one on the Fold is a little bit worse. It is a lower resolution sensor.
Yes. Why was I thinking it was better?
Well, I mean, you would think because the Fold is more expensive, it would have the better sensor. But I don't have my Fold next to me here. I've got my original Pixel Fold. You're trying to squeeze in a camera into a very, very small space, right? So there's not a lot of room because these folding phones, when they open, they have to be really thin. So they didn't pack in the most high-end zoom sensor that they do have in the Pro models. I mean, look at how far these camera bumps stick out of these slab phones, and it's a lot thicker than the Fold. So it's a smaller sensor in the folding phone. So the base model 10 will have the 5x zoom, but it's an 11 megapixel zoom. The sensor is 1/3 inches. In the Pro models, it's a 48 megapixel sensor, so much higher resolution. And the sensor is 1/2.55 inches. Basically, it's a lower resolution and smaller sensor, but it's still a 5x zoom. And as someone who's used the Pixel 9 Pro Fold quite a bit, it's fine. It's not as good as the Pro model, but it's certainly better than nothing. But it doesn't end there because they're also downgrading the primary and the ultra wide. And this is the sort of like the total picture that like I was like, this does not look good.
Yeah.
So the new Pixel 10 base model allegedly is downgrading the primary sensor. It's still a 50 megapixel sensor, but it's a fairly significantly smaller sensor. Smaller sensor means if it's smaller, it gathers less light is the simplest way to put it. If your camera sensor, the more light you gather, the better the clarity is, the faster the shutter speed is going to be, the faster the focus is going to be. Bigger sensor typically means you're going to have a more shallow depth of field. Lots of reasons you want a big sensor. So it's a smaller sensor. It's a little bit of a bummer.
But it's the base model though, right?
It is the base model. But your base model has the same sensor as the Pro models. Next year's base model has a worse sensor than the Pro models and a worse sensor than your current phone. They're downgrading.
I just wonder, like, how noticeable is that actually going to be?
Yes, and that is sort of the question. So same thing is true with the ultra wide. Rather than a 48 megapixel ultra wide, it's a 13, and it's also a lot smaller. Yeah. So that is really the question. For me, from my perspective, as the tech enthusiast, nerdy person that I am, I see base model and Pro model, and for the entire time, when you're talking about the primary and the ultra wide, they've been the same. With the 10, rather than the 10 Pro getting better and them leaving the 10 base model alone, they've actually left the Pro the same and downgraded the base model. For me, that's like red flags. This is not good. This is a bad decision. Even if at the end of the day, the photos look largely similar, which I think that they will, it doesn't feel good to be like, oh, I'm buying this base model and the cameras are objectively downgraded over last year. But for you,
I guess like for me, like I would have to try it to know for sure. I mean, obviously you probably would too, but I don't know, like, I guess if they don't think that they can do anything better to the Pro model, then I can see why they would, like, pull down the base model. And to me, like, a base model is just, like, if it has the same sensors as a Pro model, that's a really good base model phone.
Mhm.
If it's just basic, then that kind of makes sense. But like I said, if it's not really noticeable, then I don't think I really care that much. I would like to know, like, if I were to use it, would I find it different than the phone camera that I'm using now? Because the only thing that I've noticed between this phone and the last phone I was using, which is probably all the same, is that I lost the zoom.
Mhm.
You know,
And
I
it
lost,
yeah, it is all the same.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I would just want to know, like, is it going to be that noticeable, and what is the price difference going to be? You know, because if
So
it knocks a pretty good chunk off of the price, then
right.
go for it.
So there's a couple of different angles to kind of explore with this. So the Pixel 9a is going to be launching, I think, in 6 days. And the Pixel 9a is going to have the same primary as the 10 base model and the same ultra wide, but it's missing the telephoto zoom. It is
So it's
400
kind of like my phone, but just with the
with the new downgraded sensors. And there are some other things too, right? Like it's probably going to
yeah,
have less RAM. It's going to have a Tensor G4 instead of the G5 processor. So there are some other things. But speaking
yeah.
about just the cameras, yes, it's basically what you have with the new downgraded sensors.
Is it
But
going to be smaller or anything? Like the
uh,
size of the phone?
it's similar to the 10, if I'm not mistaken. It's a similar
Okay.
size. It's $499.
That's a great price.
The 10 base model, which is the same two cameras with the telephoto, is likely to be $799. Same two sensors, but you're adding that telephoto and you're going from $499 to $799. Again, I'm simplifying things because there are going to be differences, right? So the Pixel 10 is going to have some features that the 9a won't. It's going to have more RAM. But speaking about the cameras, adding the telephoto from $499 to $799. That's the thing that makes me go, You know, you see where I'm coming
It's
from?
kind I don't know. It doesn't have like a good vibe to it. It's kind of like a kind of
Yeah, it doesn't.
why?
When before the A series would have a primary and an ultra wide, just like the base model of the main series. But the main series would have a better ultra wide and a better primary, right? So
Yeah.
you kind of see what you're getting at least. Now it's just the telephoto is the only differentiating factor.
I get it as far as like an increase in price because you're adding, another feature to it, but
They're going to have to do a
yeah,
lot of other things to what's the word I'm looking for?
justify that
Thank you.
price.
To justify that increase because
Yeah.
just that camera, man, it's not even like a high-end telephoto. Like it's
Yeah.
okay. It's pretty good, right? Like it's decent.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense. So what I would say is the Pixel 10 is going to have like two or three blockbuster software features for that jump
Okay.
to make any sense at all. Because the hardware ain't doing it. The hardware is not the
Yeah.
math ain't mathing
Because the
on the
hardware is
hardware.
basically it's
Very similar
very similar, and on one model, it's being downgraded,
year
and
over
it's
year. Yes.
yeah. So okay. So what do you think that they're gonna do? Do you think they're gonna add on like like this model has the AI stuff on it, and then this one does not?
The A series is going to be lacking a handful of AI features,
Yeah.
and the
That might be great for people who are like more minimal with their
yeah,
tech
oh yeah,
or absolutely adverse to AI. That's great. It's a great deal and probably won't have some of the AI features that they're putting on the nicer phones.
based on when we went from the original Pixel Fold to the 9 Pro Fold, some very similar things happened. Some sensors stayed the same, some sensors got smaller. So a lot of us kind of again raised the alarms. Were it's an $1,800 phone, and some of the sensors were getting worse. Kind of a little bit of like, what's going on here? We got the
Sorry, I
phone.
don't know why my camera is like blurring up.
You're fine. It
If you
looks
see
fine
me
to me.
doing weird stuff, it's because I'm trying to get it back in focus.
When the
Sorry.
Pixel 9 Pro Fold launched, got my hands on it, took a bunch of pictures, took a bunch of pictures with this one, compared them, and lo and behold, even though some of the sensors had gotten worse, the camera quality was the same, if not occasionally better. In low light, it was better. In zoom, it was clearer, especially at more extreme zooms. So this Pixel 10, I would expect it to be something very, very similar, where even though some of the sensors, some of all the sensors are being downgraded, I expect things to remain very static.
Yeah,
So
because like the software, Pixel software, when it comes to, taking photos and stuff, everything that's done in processing makes the photo look
that's where
as
it's
good as
at.
it probably can,
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
where they make their hay is with their
Yeah.
computational photography. So
Yeah.
if I told you, take the phone you've got right now,
Hmm?
you're not going to get an improved camera performance in terms of your standard and your ultra wide. They're probably going to be very, very similar. But you are going to get that 5x telephoto, which is going to allow you to zoom in at, wrestling events and so forth.
Yeah.
$799. Does that, I would assume to you, you would be like, yeah, that's fine. I would
Yeah.
assume that for
I would
you,
probably be happy.
I would assume that for you, even if your primary and ultra wide performance in some areas, like maybe low light, which is where I think they'd be most likely to suffer, even if those things got slightly worse, like 10% worse, but you added the telephoto, you would probably still take that trade off.
Yeah, I would.
And
I would.
I think that that's what matters is that for the people like me that are super plugged in, we're bummed out about this and we're concerned about it. For the normal consumer who are just going to look at, they're just
Normies.
going to look at the, they're just going to take the phone and
Yeah.
take some pictures and zoom in and take some pictures and they're going to go,
Yeah.
looks good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like, the other day I was taking pictures through the iNaturalist app, and you literally showed me a feature, just simple tapping. What was it? Was it the auto?
So these Pixel phones have a macro mode. There's a
Yeah.
macro mode that automatically, if it gets super close, it switches to a macro mode. I'm not a fan of those macro modes because they use the ultra wide sensor, and the ultra wide sensor just isn't as good. So what I told you is, hey, tap this thing and it turns off the auto macro. And if you're taking a
Yeah.
picture of a flower, just hit the two, zoom in by two, do the 2x crop, and take the picture that way. And the picture is going to look, you're going to have like the shallow depth of field, the bokeh. You're like, I think that's a
Mhm.
better looking shot most of the time than using the actual macro mode. And you were like, oh, I didn't even know, I didn't even realize
Yeah,
it was
that's
even
like,
switching.
yeah, I mean, I had no idea. That might be what I was going to say is that might be the first time we've changed anything in my settings on my camera.
Which is a brief
So,
aside. When I do my camera comparison videos, people always go, well, if you used pro mode and you changed this setting and you did that thing and this thing, the picture would have looked better. And I always tell people there's a reason that I don't. There's a reason that I don't do that because, like, the average consumer doesn't
they're not
do
going to
those
do that.
things. They don't.
Yeah.
They take their phone out of their pocket and they take a photo and
That
they
is
move
exactly
on.
what I
They
do.
don't go into these settings. And
Yeah.
if I start doing that for one phone, then I got to do it for the other. And so every photo I'm taking, I'm optimizing my settings, trying to get the perfect photo, and I'm still going to make some people not happy. So it's just easier just to leave it on default settings and just move on. I saw you lose focus that time for some reason.
It's so weird. It's just like, ugh.
So
So,
just to kind of wrap this up, put a bow on it.
okay.
Pixel 10 base model, downgraded primary, downgraded ultra wide, adding the telephoto. Do you, blurry person, do you care?
Okay. I mean, I would be interested in the base model probably anyways, either the base model or the A series, because number one, I'm kind of cheap. Number two, like I'm not like a techie head like you. So, yeah, I don't think I care. I mean, it's gonna matter in my hands, like as I'm using it. And right now, the only issue I have is just that I don't have the Zoom on my phone. That's the only time that I'm ever like, oh, my phone is lacking, is
Mm-hmm.
when in that situation.
Because it is
So,
literally lacking a zoom
yeah,
lens.
literally lacking. That's the only time. And like, so it's a little irritating because, I'll have to be like, "Oh, like you have to take the photos because I can't take them if we're at
Yeah,
like an event or whatever." But otherwise, I don't care, you know?
there you go. That's kind of the perspective that I wanted to get because typically, it like I can empathize and try to think from other people's perspectives pretty well. A lot of the time, I try really hard to do that. But in this instance, I was like, why would I sit here and try to come up with another person's perspective on this when I could simply talk to someone who I know is going to have a different perspective on this and get it straight from them? I almost said straight from the horse's mouth, but I shouldn't call my wife a horse. That seems very rude.
I mean, I look like a horse, don't I?
I don't think so. Guys, what I want from you in the comments down below is kind of let me know what side of this you're on. Are you actually concerned about this at all? Do you think it's probably going to be hard to notice the difference and getting that telephoto is a good benefit? Do you feel like that maybe the A series and the base model with the same sensors by and large, maybe that's getting a little bit too close and kind of hard to justify that distance in price? There's a lot to talk about, and I'm sure you guys are going to have some fun conversations in those comments down below. I do want to say thanks to Jesse for joining me on this video, making this video possible.
Anytime.
Just drag you in there and slap your headset on and say we're talking about something. Sorry, you're actually gonna get
down and talk.
Gonna get a couple of videos like this. Actually, get another one in the chamber ready to fire as well. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more content just like this, and until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.